Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Friday. It is the weekend. I hope you have great plans and preparing for the new year that's about to come. 2025 is about to be in the building, y'all. So we are all leaving all bad behaviors and things that are not helping us in the past. Leave the trash in the past and just move forward in life. So this is a second episode of Crime and Psychology. I have a few videos that I want to review with you guys, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay. So the first one we're going to be looking at is about a husband. Um, Apparently, oh, hi Kumar, how you doing? Good to see you. Shout out to India. Good to see you, sir. So this husband, apparently, he is a suspect of unaliving his wife. He tries to say that the scenario was an accident. It was an accident. He had a altercation with his wife, and she pulled out the gun and accidentally. There was a ricochet or a fire that led to her death. But what we're going to see as we go through the footage, there's more to the story than what he led on. So let me pull this up for you guys, okay? All right, and I think I have a better scene for you guys. Okay, so here we go. Hey, young Riaz, good to see you, sir. Good to see you. Happy birthday. Isn't today your birthday? Whoop, whoop, in the air, 23. Happy birthday, Riaz. Happy birthday. I hope you had a great day and you're enjoying it. All right, so let's go. I think this one is better. Yes. So let's go on and let's view this scenario.
In the early morning hours of Valentine's Day 2019, a woman named Olivia Jones walked the aisles of a local supermarket known as HEB Plus in preparation for dinner with her husband Chris. As she gathered the ingredients, she observed a bouquet of pink and red roses, colors that symbolize tenderness and passion. As Olivia exited the store with the roses in her cart, she was unaware that in less than 40 minutes, she would be dead. A horrible consequence of so-called toxic love. The police would find her on her bedroom floor in a quiet neighborhood in Beaumont, Texas. 11 minutes earlier, her loving husband Chris dialed 911.
Beaumont 911, what is the address of your emergency? Olivia! Please, hurry. Someone take the gun. Tell me what's going on.
I'm at home, right beside the head.
Please, somebody shot in the head.
My wife, please.
Tell me, where is she shot?
Hey, Freezy.
Okay, where in the head?
Sir. I appreciate you, bro.
Okay. I want you to try to control the bleeding.
As soon as the call disconnected, officers headed on their way to the Beaumont, Texas home of Chris and Olivia, located at 5575 Pine Burr Boulevard. At 8:55 a.m., they arrived. Officer Otis Butler was met by a familiar face, 40-year-old Christopher Ray Jones, who was visibly distressed. Officer Butler was close friends with Chris and his wife Olivia. His body cam was rolling while Chris urged the officers to hurry into the house.
She in my bedroom. Where's the gun?
In the bedroom, broken down, on the dresser. Come this way.
Okay.
Please, come this way. This way.
Okay.
Please. Olivia!
As alluded to earlier, the officers made their way to the bedroom and found Olivia lying on the floor.
Baby!
Sir. Okay. Step back.
What's up, Mr. Butler? I tried to take it.
Get his gun.
Mom!
Olivia was found face down with a gunshot wound to the back of her head. Astonishingly, she was still breathing. When the officers rolled her over, they discovered that the bullet had pierced through her right eye. The room she was found in was covered in blood, with spatter all over the walls. The paramedics arrived, and while they tended to Olivia, the police secured the area. Officer Butler had Chris walk him through the events leading up to the shooting.
What happened? We had a disagreement. And I say, baby, if you're not working with me, you're working against me.
and say, we've been doing this. My 19-year-old stepdaughter was 8. My 11-year-old was 1. I said, Olivia, we can't get it together. We can't be together. We got several. And I say, I just want a divorce. And her reaction was, she got the gun? I said, give me the gun. She like, I don't remember which hand. I'm like, give me that gun. What is you doing? Stop trying to scare me. I took it.
So when you grabbed it, it went off?
She yanked. I grabbed it and she yanked back. And the gun went off.
Okay.
The gun went off.
Chris's story immediately set off red flags. How could such a large man be overpowered by his significant?
Exactly. So I wanted to stop right there because if you saw his wife, his wife is a petite woman. She was a petite woman. He's literally like 6'5". She's probably average woman height, probably 5'4", 5'5", give or take. There's no way that woman in her petite size can overpower a man like that. You can see that he is medium built. He has a certain amount of muscle on him. He seemed like he's in somewhat shape. There's no way possible that she can overpower him with the gun. And then on top of that, they stated that she was shot in the back of the head and it went through her left eye. So that means that the gun, whatever the gun was, that means it had to be positioned this way. If you're fighting with someone with a gun, wouldn't the entry point of the gun, if it was to accidentally go through the front, not the back? So these are very important details. But let's go on.
Significantly smaller wife. Chris dropped to his knees in anguish, but there were no tears as he asked Officer Butler if he could go check on Olivia.
Mr. Butler, I got help.
No. You don't need to go in there, okay?
Is she alive?
Yeah, she is.
She is.
We got him.
Is she alive, Mr. Butler? Please don't tell me she's alive if she's not.
Yeah, when I saw her, she was.
She was talking?
She wasn't talking.
Is she breathing?
It looked like she was breathing.
Ooh, good.
Don't go in there, sir.
Please.
Sir, I need you to stay right here with me, okay? And calm down.
Calm down.
Upon learning that Olivia was still breathing, Chris's reaction seemed strangely devoid of relief or happiness. Another red flag for Officer Butler. Back inside the home, Olivia's wounds proved to be fatal, and just after 9 a.m., she was pronounced dead.
So that's a very important thing too, right? Like, remember when I showed you yesterday how certain individuals or suspects, they had all these type of moaning and groaning and stuff like that, but there wasn't no waterworks. There was not one tear in that came down their eyes. It seemed very performative. And the officer, he's concerned because what he's doing is very performative. You're saying, Olivia, baby, you getting down on the ground, but your face is dry, is drier than it ever been. Not one tear. And then you're very concerned about whether or not if she's alive. But the way that you're asking the question, if she alive, you're not asking the question as in, oh my God, please, I hope you're alive. You're asking, wait a minute, she alive? Is she talking? Why would you be worrying about if she's talking? Because you were worried about what she will say, right? The reason why they ask, yes, Freezy. Freezy said, why was he on his knees? That ninja praying he don't go to jail. Yes, exactly, Mr. Freezy, exactly. Like, come on now, you're doing too much, but you're not showing signs that you're really in distress. You're really not. You're not showing signs. You're doing all the performative acts, right? And this is these are I guess things that you can see in someone who is like a sociopath, even a psychopath, really, full-blown narc, right? Very performative, very performative. They literally want to give the people what they want. Let's go on.
Officers searched the rest of the home and noticed that in addition to the surveillance cameras installed on the exterior of the house, there were 2 more cameras mounted in the living room, monitoring the interior of the house as well. They also discovered the gun that Olivia was shot with, a 9mm pistol covered in blood. However, they found it strange that the gun was in a different room from where the shooting took place. If Olivia was holding the gun when it went off, how did it end up in a different room? The only logical answer was that Chris must have moved it. Following this discovery,
Exactly. So you have this, hey, Miss Jalen, good to see you, good to see you. So you have this man that is so distraught what happened to his wife. This altercation, he was trying to get the gun away from her, for her not to hurt herself or threaten to hurt him. And it's supposedly it went off, right? Your hand was on the trigger, her hand was on the trigger, and it just accidentally went off. But instead of you leaving everything at the crime scene, you purposely go into another room and you leave the actual murder weapon on the counter. Who does that? If this was all a accident and you was trying to prevent this from happening, why won't you leave the things in the state that it was exactly when it happened? You wouldn't be moving and touching anything, right? You would just be calling 911 if that was the first initial thing for you to do, is to call 911. But that didn't happen. So little things that this husband is doing is leading up to why he became more of a suspect as into what really happened to his wife. But let's go on.
the officers decided that the best course of action was to detain Chris until they had a better understanding of what really happened. As Chris was getting handcuffed, his 19-year-old daughter, Ariel, arrived at the house. She had already been contacted by Chris, who told her what had happened. She was clearly devastated. While the officers tried to console Ariel, Chris was escorted to the back of a police cruiser. Lead Detective Mendy Freeman and Sergeant Yvette Barrero of the Forensics Unit arrived at the residence and were immediately caught up to speed.
According to him, she grabs a 9mm in their bedroom. And she did that. He claims he reached for the gun to try to get it from her. And when he reached for it, and they struggle over it, boom.
At that moment, Olivia's sister Angela arrived at the scene, and Ariel once again broke out into hysterics. All of the evidence was collected and sent to the crime lab. Chris was brought down to the station where they took photos of his hands still covered in blood.
They're waiting for the lead detectives. They're going to be the ones that actually interview. So
when the detectives finally arrived at the station, they started Chris's interview by asking him what caused the argument. He said that he felt as if Olivia wasn't pulling her weight in the relationship.
I am very particular. If you heard that, that's true. I am very particular. You strive for the best for people. I work really hard, and I don't make excuses for myself, and I don't accept excuses for anybody else.
After telling her that he wanted a divorce, she went to the bedroom and grabbed the gun.
what did you say?
Wait a minute. You serious? Really? This is not going to solve anything.
Okay.
You know, this is not, you do not want to do that. Put that freaking gun down before you make a mistake and hurt yourself. She was crying. She was crying.
Chris handed over his cell phone, which had access to the home security camera footage.
Say, if you want to access just that camera, you touch that. And that's just that camera. Okay. You follow what I'm saying?
So far, let's go back to devices.
Yes, sir. And everything is labeled.
Carport, backyard, front door, back door, laundry room, side garage, living room, kitchen.
The police examined this footage, hoping to corroborate Chris's story. At 8:41 a.m., Olivia can be seen going about her morning routine in the kitchen. Then, all of a sudden, the footage cuts out. 3 minutes later, at 8:44 a.m., the video is back up, and Chris is captured frantically pacing around the house while on the phone with 911. 11 minutes later, at 8:55 a.m., the responding officers can be seen.
So again, he has access to all the cameras in the house, right? That's also kind of very telling about himself, right? He doesn't, I mean, I don't know where they live. They could live in a very high crime area, a lot of home break-ins. So that's the reason why he has that type of security system. So I'm not really knocking him of that. But there is no way that 3 minutes automatically gets deleted between her walking towards the back and him going back into the living room, calling 911, panicking back and forth, telling him that there was a shot. So what happened to that 3-minute footage? Oh, you know what happened. He erased it, right? And it's going to be very clear to any detectors about, since he's the one who's control of these video systems, even from his phone, he's the one who's deleting it, and they're going to ask him why he deleted it. He's eventually going to admit, but I want y'all to see this for yourself.
Entering the residence. That means that Olivia must have been shot during this 3-minute gap in the footage. In the interrogation room, Chris was asked why this footage was missing. He claimed that he had no idea.
We're still trying to pull up these videos here, okay? Why would there be no recordings on it? I don't know. It should be. Everybody that went in that house should be on it. But like I said, the internet, you can go through days and it pretty much does it. We shouldn't have bought that. You just keep, like, you can pick whatever day you want and it's never going to be consistent. That's why I said it was a waste of money. Well, I'm wanting desperately to find some video on here that corroborates what you're telling us, but almost all the videos start right after this event happened.
Chris had a bunch of excuses, from internet problems to not charging the camera properly. But at this point, the detectives were taking anything Chris said with a grain of salt. It seemed more likely that Chris, the only one with access to the footage, had tampered with it. Since they did not have the video, they had Chris reenact the moment that he tried to disarm Olivia.
Now go ahead and do my initial. She pulls it.
Give me the...
Okay. And I go. I'm
No,
sorry.
you're good.
No, you're good.
I don't
I'm
want the
sorry.
chair.
I'm sorry. You're fine.
Do y'all see this fake waterworks this man is putting on? Just look at the reenactment that he's trying to do. He's trying to say that when his wife had the weapon, she put it to the back of her head. Most people who are wanting to take their lives, do you know what they do? They put it to their temple, or they put it through their mouth, or under the chin. Nobody is going like this. I'm going to literally shoot myself in the back of my head, right here. Nobody does that. No suicide person does that who commits suicide via a weapon, a gun. None of them do that. None. So his reenactment of where she positioned the gun and where he tried to grab the gun from is not possible. It's not possible. And they're actually going to explain how not possible it is. But because he's trying to really make them believe his story about how the gun went off. And first of all, he got a 9mm. You never explained to the officer, when did she take the safety off the 9mm? I know there's a safety on the 9mm. I used to carry a 9mm. There's a safety. When was it explained that the safety was off? You never said you didn't say she clicked it off or anything. So again, his story is not adding up. And because he knows that the story is not really adding up and is very far-fetched, look at him coming with the waterworks, the fake waterworks again, like this is so traumatizing to him. But I've yet to see one tear come down his face. Not once. Not even in this situation, you're not going to see one tear come down his face. You know what, Mr. Freezy? The people live with themselves because a lot of people are just evil. Some people are just pure evil and they don't have a conscience. So it doesn't bother them for the things that they do. It really don't. That conscious thing is with us. People who do have a conscience. We can be like, Dad, this is wrong. I don't know if I can't even stand this. The guilt, right? That it's the guilt that makes us say, like, how can we live? How can we do this and stuff like that? These people don't have no conscience.
Like the chairman.
I'm reliving it.
Are you are?
I'm reliving it.
So she should be shot in the back of her right head.
Did you feel me twist your? Did you feel me twist?
Back here.
Did you feel me twist your? I twisted.
With each question asked, it seems as if Chris was improvising the answer, actively trying to make the puzzle pieces fit together rather than telling the truth. The detectives ended their initial interview feeling more suspicious of Chris than ever. They then moved on to other members of the family, starting with Olivia's sister, Angela.
Olivia Jones is her sister, right? We've been talking a lot lately. We talk every day. I drop her baby to her at the tax office. She's always been timid about everything. But she was the type that whatever went on in their home, she would keep it there.
Yeah. Kind of a private
person.
Yeah.
She loved her baby so much that she thought she had to live for them. You know, she would never.
Angela went on to reveal the extent of Chris's control over Olivia.
She can't talk.
So before she actually talks about the relationship dynamics that she knew that her sister was going with her husband, you notice when the sister came on the scene, she started screaming, and the first thing that she said was, "Where is he? Where is he?" Because she automatically knew that this husband was involved with her sister's death. So now she's going to explain to you the dynamics of this relationship.
Talk on the phone after a certain time. He controlled the finances. He never wanted to be in the presence of her family. Family reunions, anything, he never came. But she would have to step off, and when he would call, and all you could hear was him screaming and yelling on the phone. His character is agitation. Like, his character is to be aggressive. I just don't get it. Because all she wanted, my sister was a married type. All she wanted was to be loved.
Yeah.
She loved love. Like, she loved her babies. She wanted to live for her babies.
To make matters worse, Chris's ex-wife Letitia, who he initially met back in 1999, corroborated his pattern of controlling and aggressive behavior.
So he had an ex-wife who's going to tell her her experience of being married to him, which is going to confirm what the sister was saying about the dynamics of what her sister was going through in that relationship. Hi, Todd. How you doing? He said, Isaiah 26:10, let favor be sued to the wicked, yet will he not learn. Interesting.
I met Chris Jones in 1999. It was just like a constant fight. Like, he strangled me, choked me out, drugged me through the house. My skin was missing off my back. One time he bit my hand. He had this bite marks in my hand. This was what it was. If the house not clean, he's told me that he would kill me if I was to ever leave him. Told me how he would do it. The reason I never said anything or went for help was because I was extremely in fear of my life. Because I knew and I felt in my heart that he would kill me.
And most damning of all were the allegations made by Olivia's daughter Ariel during her interview. She explained what it was like living at the house with her mom and Chris.
One time they were arguing and I heard her say she couldn't breathe. I would see bruises on her. It broke her down to the point where she believed what he said. You won't be nothing without me, stuff like that.
Right.
Everybody knows my mom. Everybody knows my mom. Everybody knows that we were her world.
With each person interviewed, the allegations against Chris were stacking higher and higher. They doubled back with him, urging him to tell the truth about what actually happened to the missing footage.
To be honest, I videos.
I look guilty. I'm not deleting those videos. I look guilty.
Not if you say right now, what you just said a while ago. I freaked out. I panicked. I did some stuff I shouldn't have done. Is that one of them?
Yes.
How many did you delete?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just afraid of being blamed for something I did do something that looks really bad on me.
While the confession was a much-needed win for the detectives, there was still no trace of those crucial 3 minutes of footage. However, the detectives did their due diligence. They spent the days combing through all available footage from the house to see for themselves what daily life was like for the Jones family. In these recordings, the true nature of Chris and Olivia's relationship was on full display.
Then you're gonna be looking stupid. Look on the floor. Look on the floor. Look on the floor, wife. Look on the floor. Look on the floor. Look on the floor. Look on the why is that like that? You're not paying attention. What the man?
Okay, leave.
You wasn't worried about the son of a bitch a minute ago. That's your mother. Look at me like that, bitch. I'm not playing with you. Lazy. You want to do something, not enough? Give it here. You got all the goddamn answers. You don't do a goddamn thing around this. Right. This your ass, bitch.
I know that I was gonna be.
That's clean dish. That's clean.
I didn't want to. They fell on the floor, so I didn't want to reuse them.
You look at it. You don't pay attention to what the fuck you doing. You all over the place, Olivia. You ain't got the chance to claim your off. Food on the wall. Who you burning now?
Me?
Harriet don't live here. It's you. It'll always be you.
Chris would take any chance that he could to bully Olivia, constantly putting her worth into question.
So as you can see for yourself, I guess him having those cameras in the house, it really proved his character, right? He was abusive, verbally abusive to his wife. He was physically abusive to his wife. He would start troubles with her. He would berate her. Nothing that she did was good enough. He will pretty much ridicule her. It's horrible, but now you have an understanding of why he is more possible a suspect to what actually happened, and not the story that he leading with, that she wanted to commit her life because take her life because he said that he wanted the divorce. The way that he's acting, do that sound like somebody who just say, you know what, I had enough. You're not tidy enough for me. I need to leave this relationship? No. He's very controlling. So that will let me believe that, he wants to control the situation, and he also wants to control her. It's unfortunate. It doesn't sit well with me hearing him berate her that way. It really doesn't. Yeah. Yeah, she should have, right? But if you Todd, when you heard her sister talking to the investigators earlier, he made it his business to kind of keep her away from her family. She said that he never wanted to be around her family, right? So any family events, holidays, and stuff like that, he would never show up. So she was always showing up by herself. And then she also said that her sister was private. So anything that she was going on with, she wanted to keep it in household, right? She didn't want her family to worry. She didn't want her friends to worry. So that's a big part of it as well. This is very unfortunate, right? Because usually when you're dealing with an individual like this, and just to be sure, this is not only a male type of, behavior. This is a narcissist controlling person's behavior. So that can be a man or a woman. They usually want to isolate you. They'll gaslight you. They'll separate you from good counsel wherever you will get it. He was controlling how long she could be on the phone. She couldn't make a phone call after 9 p.m. And if she did make a phone call, she would have to walk outside of the house because he would stand right over her to see what is she's talking about with whoever she's on the phone with. So this is very sad and unfortunate, really. Hi, JK. How you doing? Thank you for stopping by. CJ said low IQ people lack compassion and basic human empathy. You know what? I can definitely agree with that. Yes, some low IQ people do. Definitely. Let's go on.
Even humiliating her in front of her own daughter.
When I got the show ass, you didn't have a job. You collected unemployment. You just had off. And most men in this world want a woman that got what? You wouldn't be doing this if I wouldn't have got upset. You would have bagged that. Life would be so much easier for me if you start thinking. You do dumb because you don't think.
This footage shed light on Chris's true colors and confirmed the allegations of abuse from Olivia's family. Detectives also looked into Chris's criminal records and discovered that he had a history of violent charges, including multiple assaults in 1996 and a domestic assault in 1998, which landed him in jail for a brief period of time. Even though they were still waiting for ongoing forensic analysis results, authorities believed that they had enough evidence to place charges against Chris.
News this morning, a Beaumont man is now facing murder charges in a Valentine's Day shooting of his wife. Police say this man, Christopher Ray Jones, who worked as a correctional counselor at the Beaumont Federal Prison, killed his wife, Olivia.
Chris was charged with first-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter in April of 2019. But unexpectedly, within 24 hours after being charged, he was released on a $150,000 bond and was put under house arrest with a GPS monitor.
Now a man charged with murdering his wife is back at their home.
So that's another reason why you seen that he said he works for a correctional facility as a counselor. So that's another reason why I think he also had this like iron fist type of situation when it comes down to his marriage. You know, dealing in correctional facilities, you have so many different walks of life coming in there, and most of them could be actual criminals. These are one of those jobs where a lot of people take that home, right? I explained to y'all yesterday about how domestic violence is high in certain career fields. Divorce rates are high between certain people who hold these career fields. So that all of that is a part of it. All of that is a part of it. Mr. Freezy says, you can't squeeze respect out of someone by controlling them. Only fear is produced. Yes, exactly. Right. Some people tend to believe that the respect that they get when someone fears them is what you call it? Is like being respected as being renowned. It's not, right? The person is just feared. They're going to do what they need to do because they don't want to deal with whatever consequence or result is going to happen if they don't do what they want to do. But they're not doing it because they revere you as someone that they look up to, right? So that's not respect. That's definitely not respect. Okay, so Hey Howdy says it's not just people with low IQ. Yeah, you're right. It's not just people. People with high IQs can treat people very horrible too, right? And because they know how to read people, they can manipulate people, they have connections. It's pretty much anybody, really. So I will agree to that. Let's go on.
40-year-old Christopher Ray Jones was arrested and charged with shooting his wife in the face on Valentine's Day. His bond was set at $150,000. He paid and is now out.
Many taking to social media to voice their concerns, stating things like, can't believe he's out on a $150,000 bond. That's crazy. What's wrong with our system? And can't believe they would make his bond so low that he got out. He should not be walking the streets.
While out on bail, Christopher was allowed to continue operating the Jones family business, a food truck called One Plate at a Time. The judge allowed Chris to work while out on bail since the food truck is directly beside his home. However, this decision was controversial amongst Olivia's family and the community. They knew Chris was the only person with Olivia at the time of her death, and they all seemed to believe that he had killed her.
This food truck on Concord Road in Beaumont is a hot topic on social media. It's not generating rave reviews from many, but condemnation from a grieving family.
I don't see how would anyone want to support someone who murdered their wife on Valentine's Day, which is a day that we are supposed to celebrate love. And the day that she was going to celebrate that with him, he decides to take her life.
Chris's image was tainted even further when the results from the crime lab came in. The bloodstain patterns at the crime scene indicated that the gunshot wound could not have happened in the way that Chris described it. Additionally, investigators found no gunshot residue on Olivia's hands, indicating that there was no way she was holding the gun when it went off. There was, however, gunshot residue on Chris's hands and clothing. Despite all of the evidence pointing towards Chris, he pled not guilty to his charges. But before his trial would take place, Olivia's family held a gathering to honor her memory.
This Valentine's Day,
Praying for you.
Thank you. Purple and red balloons filled Rogers Park.
Purple means domestic violence, and red was one of her favorite colors.
1 year ago today, Joshua Simmons lost his sister.
Valentine's Day was one of her favorite holidays.
I would give almost anything to have her back right now.
What's this year been like for you and your family?
If you can wrap it up in one word, it would be frustrating.
Frustrated with the fact that Jones isn't behind bars. Now the family wants to raise awareness for domestic violence, but more than anything, they want justice for Olivia.
We want him to spend the rest of his life in prison, while my sister spend the rest of her life in the grave.
After finally having an opportunity to celebrate Olivia's life, her loved ones would once again have to face her death during Chris's upcoming trial. The courtroom was packed with family members from both sides. It had been over 3 years since Olivia's death, and despite the clear tension between the two families, they all wanted the same thing: justice for Olivia. Prosecutors Jimmy Ham and Mike Laird described Chris as an abusive partner with a violent past, and it was only a matter of time before something like this happened. Chris's defense attorney, Ryan Gertz, argued that Chris only grabbed the gun because Olivia was recklessly handling the weapon, putting both herself and Chris in a dangerous predicament. Forensic pathologist Celestina Rossi provided critical bloodstain analysis and confirmed that Olivia did not have any gunshot residue on her, contradicting the defense's claims that her death was merely an accident. The testimonies and evidence combined ultimately overpowered the defense team, and on February 8, 2022, Christopher Ray Jones was found guilty for the murder of his wife, Olivia Jones.
1,118 days. That's how long Olivia Jones's family says they've waited for this moment. The moment when Olivia's husband, Christopher Jones, was found guilty of murder. Olivia died at the hands of her husband on Valentine's Day 2019, and instead of spending a lifetime behind bars,
we elected to agree with the state to a 30-year sentence because of the potential risk of, an even higher sentence.
In exchange, Christopher waived his right to appeal the conviction. After the judge handed down this sentence, Olivia and Christopher's 2 daughters took the stand. Looking directly at their father, they described the impact of Olivia's death. The youngest daughter, who was only 11 when her mother died, said, quote, "I'll forgive you one day, but right now I can't." Throughout the trial, the prosecution described a history of abuse that finally blew up. Defense attorney Ryan Getz argued a different version of events.
I think that we'll never know what happened in that room. Ultimately, my impression from the jurors is that they just didn't believe Chris's version of events, and that really only left the one alternative.
This was an emotional day for Olivia's family. As they were leaving the courtroom, they were encouraging each other, saying, "Today was all about Olivia, and she won."
Christopher Jones is currently serving his sentence in the John M. Wynn Unit in Huntsville, Texas.
So that was just horrible, right? I mean, me personally, I believe that he was supposed to get more time. 30 years was not enough. He was supposed to at least get about 65 with the possibility of parole after serving pretty much half of that time. Because clearly he lied about so many things. He deleted footage, and he deleted footage. He lied about the positioning of the gun. He lied about Olivia even having the gun. Right? He lied about so many things. And for him to only just get 30 years and then to realize that he had a history of domestic abuse under his own, background, right? And it was very telling hearing what his ex-wife said. He deserved more time. I think they had more than enough evidence to give him more time than 30 years. I don't think 30 years is enough, really. And he was able to actually wait for trial or wait till he get his actual charge, what he was going to be sentenced. He was able to go home with a monitor or on his ankle, an ankle monitor, and still serve food in that community from his food truck. He got a lot of I think too much grace. He got a lot of too much grace especially when they started to get more information about how involved and what he did and how the situation was actually really deliberate. He should have gotten more for that. But I'm glad that they did get some type of justice, because we do hear these stories when people don't even get no type of justice, right? Their killers walk free and they get to live a regular life. So some justice was served. And I would just say prayers to that family, prayers to those little girls. And it's hard for them too, because that's their father, and it's like, it's not like they automatically hate their father, but they love their mom too. So like they have a lot of healing that they're gonna have to go throughout the rest of their life. It's unfortunate for the whole family involved. All right, so I have another video for you guys, and then I'm gonna let you guys go. But this one has to do with a judge. So a judge is pretty much becoming a suspect of being a killer. And I haven't really researched this one, so we're going to look at this one together and make some commentary on it. Here we go.
In Wise County, Texas, Deputy James Boyd was performing a routine traffic stop on a 1991 black Cadillac DeVille. What he didn't realize was that the person driving this vehicle was the notorious Evan Spencer Ebel, a member of a violent prison gang known as the 211 Crew. Evan was incorrectly released from prison just 2 months before this encounter due to an error in his court records. During his short taste of freedom, he obtained a 9mm pistol and killed a Domino's delivery driver named Nathan Leon, stealing his uniform in the process. Evan then wore that uniform as a disguise and rang the doorbell of Tom Clements, the executive director of the Colorado Department of Corrections. When Tom answered the door, he was shot directly in the chest and killed.
In the shocking overnight murder of the head of Colorado's prison system, Tom Clements was gunned down as he answered the front door of his Monument home last night. Air Tracker 7 was over the home this morning. Investigators are searching the area for clues, and they are talking to neighbors.
2 days after this shooting brings us right back to this traffic stop on March 21st, and it seems that evil Ebel would rather continue his murder spree than go back to prison. In this exact moment, Deputy Boyd was shot 3 times, twice in the chest and once in the head. Unfortunately, due to YouTube's sensitive graphic violence guidelines, we are unable to show this shooting on screen. However, Deputy Boyd recovered from his injuries and later described the experience.
I remember seeing the gun shoot off in a number amount of times, and I could see the cartridges fly out, at which point I blacked out. I had no clue whether I was standing, sitting, laying, whatever.
While squirming on the ground in shock and agony, Deputy Boyd is spotted by a random civilian who pulls over to help. Backup is called in, and while Deputy Boyd gets some much-needed medical attention, numerous officers from several jurisdictions are quickly in hot pursuit of the shooter. The chase reaches speeds of over 100 miles per hour, and more shots are fired at law enforcement, all while weaving in and out of traffic. At one point, Evan blows a tire and smoke billows out from his vehicle, hindering the police cruiser's field of view. But the officer remains calm and stays right on Evan's tail. Eventually, Evan exits the highway, and the chase continues through the streets of Wise County. Then, out of nowhere, an 18-wheeler slams into Evan. His car is totaled, but the action isn't over yet. Evan immediately exits the vehicle and fires a barrage of bullets at the officers. The officers fire back, hitting Evan multiple times. Evan Ebel was killed instantly. Several significant pieces of evidence were found in Evan's Cadillac, including Nathan's Domino's uniform, directions to Tom Clements' house, a manifesto outlining his grievances with the prison system, and a hit list of other prison officials. This was an immediate red flag for authorities, as just 7 weeks earlier, another shooting took place with striking similarities. On January 31st, 2013.
So this is kind of strange, right? How these seems to be actual hits. These people are intentionally going out there to do these things. You're picking up disguises to be dominoes and stuff, and now the police are starting to seem like this is quite similar. So they don't know whether or not they're trying to label this as a serial killer type of situation, or is it a hitman, like a hitman, like someone is purchasing hitmans to do certain hits, right? So now this is what they're actually investigating.
13, just 3 days after Evan Ebel was released from prison, a DA in Kaufman County was shot just outside of the courthouse.
Kaufman County 911. Yes, sir. We've got a gentleman on Grove Street and Madison that just got shot.
Officer Jason Statsny was the first to arrive at the scene. He immediately began CPR.
You got a shot in his face. There you go. There you go, buddy. Keep breathing for me.
5 minutes later, an ambulance arrived and an EMT took over.
Anybody know anything about it? He's one of the DA prosecutors.
The victim was 57-year-old Mark Hassey, the chief assistant DA for Kaufman County. The scene was quickly secured, and Mark was loaded into the ambulance. Soon after being transported to the hospital, he tragically passed away. With the shooter at large, the courthouse was shut down for the day, and police began to canvass the area. Witnesses stated that the shooter was wearing all black with a covered face, and that they fled the scene by hopping into the passenger seat of a getaway car, a silver or light-colored four-door sedan. Another witness claimed to have heard Mark's final words, "No, I'm sorry," right before he was shot. Investigators had a feeling that one of the criminals Mark prosecuted sought revenge through a targeted killing, and Mark's final words only supported this theory. While they worked to verify this hunch, District Attorney Mike McClelland made a public statement where he addressed the shooter directly.
My name is Mike McClelland. I'm the criminal district attorney for Kaufman County. We lost a really, really good man. I hope that the people that did this are watching, because we're very confident that we're going to find you, we're going to pull you out of whatever hole you're in, and we're going to bring you back and let the people of Kaufman County prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
2 months later, when Evan Ebel's murder spree ended with his death, Mike and Kaufman authorities wondered if they could link Evan's 211 crew affiliation and hit list to Mark's murder as well.
So I wanted to stop here because this goes back to what I was saying about these prosecutors, even defense attorneys, right? They're not safe as much people think they are. They have to deal with a lot of people making threats towards them, threatening their families. They have to go through the same type of civil process that anybody else does. If somebody make a threat to them, they don't get any special protections. And sometimes I think we forget how these people, even though they're doing their job and they might not be on the right side or whatever it is, that these people are putting their life at risk, because people do hold vendettas, People do hold vendettas, like criminals, their families, their friends, people that they might even be in business with. These are a lot of things that you have to factor in now when it even comes down to processing someone in the court system. Is not as safe as a lot of people believe that it is. And it's not only the suspect or someone who's being arraigned that has to worry about their life.
Unfortunately, Mike wouldn't live long enough to find out, as he became the next victim.
District Attorney Mike McClelland and his wife Cynthia have been found shot to death.
It is the second shooting of a prosecutor in the small Texas town this year, coming just 2 months after Assistant District Attorney Mark Hassey was shot dead outside the local courthouse on his way to work.
On March 30th, 2013, friends and family were unable to get in touch with District Attorney Mike McClelland and his wife Cynthia. When they went to check on them, the door was unlocked. Inside, they immediately noticed shell casings at their feet. They feared the worst, and after moving toward the living room, Cynthia was found lying motionless in a pool of blood. Further into the house, they discovered Mike's body as well, riddled with bullets. The McClellands had been brutally murdered. Authorities rushed to the scene and spent the night processing it. It was discovered that the McClellands had a home security system that kept track of any movement detected in the house. All movement stopped by 6:42 a.m. that morning, indicating that the shooting must have taken place around this time. News quickly spread of the McClelland murders, and while hundreds of investigators got to work, a multitude of tips poured in from the public. But one of these tips was much different than the others. It came in on the night of Easter Sunday, and it simply read,
"Do we have your full attention now? Only a response from Judge Bruce Woods will be answered. You have 48 hours.
Law enforcement decided to respond.
You have our attention. How can the county judge contact you?
Since the Crime Stoppers program protects the anonymity of those sending tips, law enforcement had no choice but to await a response from this mysterious tipster. 12 hours later, that response came. It started with,
"Your act of good faith will result in no other attacks this weekend."
This mysterious person went on to prove that they were in fact the killer by stating the kind of ammunition used to murder Mike Hassey, something only law enforcement and the killer would know. Then, the killer had a very specific demand.
"Judge Woods must offer a resignation of one of the 4 main judges in Kaufman. My superiors will see this as a first step, ending our action. Do not report any details of this arrangement. You have until Friday at 4 p.m. We are not unreasonable, but we will not be stopped."
Law enforcement then responded yet again.
"We are working on your demands. A lot has been put out to the media. Can you give us additional details that are specific to this case and not known by the press?"
Unfortunately, the conversation ended there, leaving law enforcement wondering if these were threats coming from Evan Ebel's fellow gang members.
Ebel was a member of the white supremacist prison gang called the 211 Crew. In recent years, experts say ultra-violent white supremacist prison gangs like the 211 Crew and the much larger Aryan Brotherhood, the subject of this National Geographic investigation, have expanded their criminal enterprises outside the prison walls, selling drugs and running guns, all directed from behind bars.
They devised all kinds of codes, so they might send out a letter that looks like a quite benign letter but is actually directing a hit or some other kind of criminal activity.
Still, experts say it is extremely rare for prison gangs to kill top officials, because to do so means all-out war. Tonight, war may well be what the 211 Crew has on its hands.
With the possibility of more organized gang violence on the way, detectives were in overdrive, searching for anything or anyone to help identify Mike and Cynthia's shooter. While reviewing surveillance footage from businesses around the McClelland household, a white Ford Crown Victoria can be seen speeding through the streets. Meanwhile, another team of investigators were taking a look through the past cases involving both Mike McClelland and Mark Hassey. From these case files, a new suspect emerged, former Justice of the Peace and Mensa member, Eric Williams. In 2011, Eric was arrested and charged with felony theft. This Mensa certified genius seemed to have forgotten that there were cameras in the courthouse when he stole 3 computers. Following his arrest, he was brought to the interrogation room for questioning.
Okay, before we get started, I'm ready to wrangle. You're an attorney, you're a judge, so you know this. What does that mean?
I know you gotta read. Okay. It's been an ongoing kind of thing where I tell the IT people, look, that I need to keep improving things.
I understand, but you hadn't put any kind of written request, nothing like that's been documented on.
No, nothing like that.
I don't think that you actually believe, I mean, you're an educated person. I see your class ring on your finger, that you can just walk into a ID department and say, I need a monitor, I'm taking that one. I mean,
there's places that do that.
Places being here in Kaufman County or?
Well, I mean, there's businesses that, yeah.
Eric was offered a plea deal, which would reduce the charges from a felony to a misdemeanor. But he refused this offer and the case was sent to trial. The prosecution team consisted of Mark Hassey and Mike McClelland. Eric was ultimately found guilty. He was only sentenced to 2 years probation, but what really...
So this is very important information, right? So he tried to steal government equipment, and whatever he needed that for, don't know. But he tried to steal government equipment, and now he was sentenced. And it seems that every person that was a part of his sentencing for 2 years is the ones that had this hit out on them that they're trying to link to this this jail group, right? This potential jail group. But let's see more about this.
Stung was that he was now a convicted felon. As a result, his position as Justice of the Peace and his law license were revoked. Following Mark and Mike's death in 2013, Eric was asked to take part in a police interview. He refused to speak with the investigators following the advice of his attorneys. However, Eric had no problem speaking with the media,
Josh, how you
giving his
doing,
2
sir?
cents throughout the investigation.
First, I want to say that my deepest condolences go out to the McClelland family and all the people at the courthouse, most of which I know. I've cooperated with law enforcement. I certainly wish them the best in bringing justice for this incredibly egregious act.
Has anyone connected with this investigation suggested to you that you are a person of interest in the investigation?
No.
Did you bear either of those men any kind of grudge?
No, absolutely not. My heartfelt condolences go out to both the McClellan family and the Hassey family because they were in public office doing the right thing, and for some reason that we're not aware of have paid the ultimate price for that.
While Eric segued between several media outlets, investigators continued to look into him as the prime suspect. To their surprise, Eric had no record of ever owning a white Crown Victoria. Thankfully, on April 11th, 12 days after the McClelland murders, Eric fired his attorneys and reached out to the authorities to cooperate. Detectives immediately headed to Eric's residence to interview him.
Hey, Eric, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And you understand why your name pops up?
Absolutely.
Oh, no. Well, did you have anything to do with it?
No, absolutely not.
As expected, Eric insisted that he had zero involvement regarding the murders, so the detectives decided to take a different angle.
You don't have any more? You got rid of all of them?
One gun I'm trying to sell, and it's just hard as hell to sell.
Hey, just curious, how many guns did you used to own?
About 16.
And you sold 15 of them?
For context, since Eric is a convicted felon, it is illegal for him to own any firearms.
I'd love to go back and say, there's no guns in your house. If we looked in their house.
I guess we could just look in there real quick.
Without probable cause, the detectives are unable to legally search Eric's home unless he grants them permission himself.
But you don't mind us going out there and looking? Okay.
I'll take that.
With permission now granted, the detectives begin their search, audio still rolling.
Do you still have any ammo or anything?
Last year, the only ammo I would have would be for that.
As Eric stated earlier, he had apparently sold all but one of his 16 firearms. But as they move from room to room, they uncover a host of weapon attachments.
Hey, Eric, I'm just curious. You're selling all your guns. Why didn't you say your spotting scopes and stuff?
You got to do everything in, I guess.
Here, what is that?
Is this a taser or something?
The taser they just discovered is actually a thermal sensor, otherwise known as a heat seeker, which can be used for night vision. Since the McClellans were believed to have been killed before sunrise, the detectives used this along with the suspicious amount of firearm attachments as probable cause for a proper search warrant. The next day, on April 12, 2013, the search is in full swing, with Kaufman County investigators and the FBI working together. During this search, they find even more than they were hoping.
I see why they actually wanted to go and really get the paperwork done to actually search his home, because usually a gun owner is someone who loves their guns. They don't sell so many of them, and you're trying to get rid of all your guns, right? Like, you got 18 guns because you like guns. They might be different brands, different sizes. I know people who are gun lovers. I enjoy shooting guns. So I understand, but you don't actively try to sell all your guns. You always have your special guns that you want to keep with you, and maybe other ones you'll find someone to, buy it from you if you're going to get something else, right? Or you want to trade it for something else. But he was strategically trying to get rid of 18 guns, and he said that the last gun that he had, he couldn't find no one to buy it. It was hard for him to find someone to actually purchase this gun for him. So that do raise flags, right? It really does raise flags, because these guns are not cheap. These guns are, they're pretty expensive. It's very similar to women who collects bags, luxury bags and stuff like that. That's how people feel about their guns.
Hoping for. In a filing cabinet in the garage, they found the vehicle registration for a white Ford Crown Victoria. They also found a scrap piece of paper. Written on it was an anonymous tip website and a password. When the police gained access to this account, they confirmed that Eric was the one taunting and extorting law enforcement.
We are not unreasonable, but we will not be stopped.
Authorities have arrested 46-year-old Eric Williams. He's charged with making a terroristic threat after searching his home. Williams is the former justice of the peace in Kaufman County, a position he lost last year when the DA's office convicted him of theft. He has not been named a suspect in the murders.
As the investigation honed in on Eric, several more tips came in, including one from a man named Roger. Roger and Eric became friends during their time in the Texas State Guard. And in November of 2012, Eric convinced Roger to rent a storage unit for him. Once Once Roger heard about the search of Eric's home, he immediately reached out to law enforcement and told them about this unit. On April 13th, 2013, police executed a search of this unit, and to say they hit the jackpot would be an understatement. Not only did they find the white Crown Victoria, but they also unveiled police uniforms and badges, bulletproof vests, and an arsenal of weaponry, including knives, a crossbow, multiple guns, and ammunition that could have killed both Mark Hasse and the McClellans. And of course, pickle jars filled with homemade napalm. Several firearms were sent in for forensic testing, along with a stray bullet which was found in a random bag away from all of the other ammunition. As for the silver sedan, police were eventually able to locate receipts for a silver Mercury Sable, which had been towed away after sitting in the storage facility's parking lot for too long. The test results came back, and after comparing the bullet with the shell casings at the murder scene, they were able to confirm that the bullet was ejected from the same weapon that killed the McClellans. However, they were unable to confirm if the firearms that they tested were used in any of the murders. Although this was very frustrating, prosecutors ultimately decided to move forward. On April 18th, 2013, Eric Williams was charged with 3 counts of capital murder. In capital murder cases, the state divides the trial into 2 phases: the guilt phase and the penalty phase. During the guilt phase, a jury decides the defendant's guilt or innocence. If the defendant is found guilty, the trial moves to a penalty phase, in which the jury receives additional information and decides whether or not the defendant should be executed. The guilt phase began in December of 2014 and was only addressing one of the 3 charges, the murder of Cynthia McClelland. This was devised by the prosecution team so that if anything went wrong in the first trial, they could essentially get a second chance through another trial. Prosecutors summarized the investigation for the jury, portraying Eric.
Now, I understand that obviously he is like the mastermind of this whole hit that went on for actual, I guess, years. But I still want to know whether or not did he have anybody else help him, right? There was a lot that the vehicle, all that weapon, him saying that he was getting rid of 18, he got rid of 18 weapons and he's trying to get rid of the last one. Like, did they research to find out who he sold those things to? Verify that he sold, do we have a receipt of those purchases of those weapons and stuff like that? Because I don't know. I don't know if it was him that was actually doing it, or did he actually have extra hands to help with that, right? It's we do know with one of the killings, he did have help. The police ended up having to gun down that individual who ran, but the other ones, was it actually him, right? Because they haven't said that they found any fingerprints that leads him to, for the attack of the other prosecutor and his wife. They didn't say that they found any fingerprints that that's his gun or he did the shooting. No fingerprints in the house. They haven't said that. So I wanted to know, was it like, did he use another hitman? Did he use this? Did he use these gang members to assist him? Because he said once they found out that he was the one who was giving those threatening tips to the cops, he said, we're not unreasonable, but we will win. We will succeed. So we is plural. That means that you're not working by yourself. So those are the things that I'm really actually worrying about.
Eric as an egotistical and calculated killer who would go to great lengths for revenge.
This is my chance to tell you the story of the murders of Mike and Cynthia McClelland. He sent an email into law enforcement claiming credit for the murders, thinking law enforcement would never figure it out. Well, he was wrong.
They also used the storage facility's surveillance footage to establish a timeline of the crime. At about 6 a.m., the Crown Victoria can be seen entering the parking lot, then leaving 12 minutes later at around 6:12 a.m. Then, after killing the McClellans at around 6:42 a.m., the vehicle heads back to the storage unit, arriving at 7 a.m. 17 minutes later, a black SUV can be seen leaving the area. The defense, on the other hand, focused on the weak points in the prosecution's case.
Eric Williams did not commit these murders. There is no known murder weapon in this case. There's no one who can place Eric Williams in that scene at the McClelland home. No one.
The prosecution called an onslaught of witnesses, meticulously breaking down each and every piece of evidence and testimony. As for the defense, they called no witnesses during the guilt phase of the trial. They simply believed that it was unnecessary since the state failed to prove Eric's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. However, the final say would go to the jury, and after 90 minutes of deliberation, a verdict was reached.
We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, Eric Lyle Williams, guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment.
Eric Williams was found guilty for the murder of Cynthia McClelland. It was now time for the penalty phase, where the jury decides whether or not Eric will receive the death penalty. Perhaps the most compelling moment of the trial is what happened next. This is Kim Williams, Eric's wife and alleged getaway driver. Back in 2013, Kim was arrested at the same time as Eric, and detectives spoke with her for hours in the interrogation room. Although she was first defensive about her husband, she slowly let her guard down and eventually told the detectives what really happened. They convinced her to take a plea deal. Since she was protected by spousal immunity, she was not forced to testify against Eric. However, as part of her deal, they asked that she provide testimony during the penalty phase of the trial. She agreed.
It was a cold day, and there was excitement in the air. He came up with a plan to dress like law enforcement. He was modeling it for me.
Describe to the members of the jury what he was modeling for you the night before.
I want to say he looked like he was in the Army or SWAT. He had a bulletproof vest that had sheriff on the front. That more than likely Mrs. McClellan was going to answer the door and he was going to introduce himself as a policeman.
You may be wondering why Cynthia had to die if Mike was the target. Kim explained Eric's simple reasoning to the court.
She would be there as a witness, and he described it as collateral damage.
What did he tell you about how Cynthia McClellan died?
He told me that he had to shoot her an extra time because she was still moaning.
That night, Kim and Eric celebrated the double murder by having a feast.
That's crazy. That is crazy, ma'am. I know it's, this is really hard. I understand why they're giving her spousal protection, right? But it's just like, ma'am, how can you sit there with your husband and have conversations about people that he has unalived and have him tell you things in detail why he had to do this and do that, and then consider still sit at the dinner table with him. I don't know. I don't know how you can do that. Like that's very shocking and traumatizing to me. Like I don't know. That's terrible.
We had steaks on the grill, and Eric cooked those.
At your parents' house?
At my parents' house.
Were you all celebrating with steaks?
That's correct.
During the guilt phase of the trial, the prosecution team was not allowed to bring up the details of the Mark Hasse case, so they used this opportunity to bring the jury up to speed.
Did you agree to drive?
Yes, I did.
You knew what was going to happen.
Yes, I did.
Why did you agree to drive to the murder of Mark Hasse?
I was so drugged up, and I so believed in Eric and everything that he told me. His anger was my anger.
Kim went on to recount the moments following Mark's shooting.
As you're driving away from the scene of the Hasse murder, what is his mood like?
Happy.
What is your mood like?
Happy.
She also recalled driving to a bridge one night with Eric, where he threw a bag into the lake below.
Do you know what was in the bag?
I knew that it was guns.
After 7 months of searching, the bag was found at the bottom of the lake. It turns out that it wasn't a bag at all, but rather a Halloween mask that Eric wore during Mark's shooting in order to conceal his face. Inside the mask was 2 revolvers, one of which was confirmed to have killed Mark.
And you can imagine the terror that was going through Mark Hasse when he recognized and heard the voice.
Kim also revealed that Eric had several more victims in mind. This hit list included a judge that he planned on killing in a more creative way than the others.
And who else?
Judge Ashworth.
How did he tell you he was going to kill Judge Ashworth?
He was going to shoot him with the crossbow.
What was the napalm for?
I guess to drive in an extra kind of FU. He's going to bore a hole in his stomach and pour it in.
The defense tried to combat this disturbing testimony with a small army of character witnesses. No matter how hard the defense worked, Eric's fate was ultimately left to the jury, and on December 17, 2014, Eric Williams was sentenced to death by lethal injection.
He was ordered by this court to carry out the sentence of death.
As of November 2024, Eric is still on death row and is appealing his conviction. Kim Williams pled guilty to the murder of Mark Hasse and was sentenced to 40 years in prison.
Pretty much the only thing I have to say is you, Eric Williams.
Wow, 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 wow. Oh my gosh. So he got the death penalty. He is still now currently on death row. And his wife, even though she has somewhat spousal protection and she gave extra information to seal his fate, she still got 40 years for her not doing what she was supposed to do and notifying the authorities. So she was kind of labeled as being a part of it, being, you know, it I don't know. Like it's very unfortunate that people think that they need to do things like this. It's crazy, crazy stuff. He went and that was like a real vendetta, right? If y'all know what a vendetta is, like that is like some real vendetta. Like you planned a whole bunch of stuff. You waited until years passed by to actually go through these hits. You had masks, you had uniforms. It reminded me of what was that movie with Jamie Foxx was in it with the other guy, law abiding citizen. That's what that reminds me of. That's that stint of vendetta that this past judge had for the prosecutors and the other judges that was a part of his case. It's unfortunate how crazy people are out here. It's unfortunate and terrible that these people lost their life this way for doing their job, and looking at the evidence and presenting the evidence. And this is unfortunate that people who are in law enforcement, whether if they're a part of the actual law system or just the enforcement part of the law, that they have to deal with. Their family is in danger, they're in danger. There's a lot of things that are going on. So I hope that we keep that in mind and not to pass too much judgment on people going forward, and just get a chance to look at the stories in totality to see what's really going on. But I want to appreciate everybody rocking out with me to look at these two cases. I will be coming back with another couple of cases, another maybe tomorrow or maybe on Monday. I'll decide. I'll decide. But I want everybody to enjoy their Friday, have good fun. Happy holidays, happy New Year's. If I don't see you, I wish you well. Starting a new fresh 2025. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and I will see you soon. Thank you so much for rocking out with me today. Take care. Bye-bye.